Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Watch Your Heroes Fall. This will be Part 14, Chapter 16, entitled Phase 2, Scene 7, Deus Ex Machina. Shoto's sleeping mind replays yesterday, again and again and again. Going home from the dorms, Fuyumi and dinner, Natsuo in one round, cut short, of a video game Shoto had never seen before. The press conference must have happened sometime around then, but Shoto didn't see it. Father trying to kill him in the kitchen. Not even training. He just tried to kill Shoto. Then Fuyumi and Natsuo, panicking and enraged, had iced Father to the floor long enough for Shoto to run away. 20 minutes later, with Shoto halfway to the league's bar, Fuyumi had texted that she and Natsuo were going to hide at her girlfriend's house for a few days. Shoto texted back that he had somewhere to go, and then his phone turned off as Father deactivated it, and Shoto threw it into a bush. In the dreams, sometimes Shoto is Fuyumi, icing Father to the floor with rage as hot as coals in his blood, and then his blood boils too hot and the ice melts, and Shoto, as Fuyumi, watches Father kill him in third person. Sometimes Shoto is himself, and Fuyumi and Natsuo never get their courage up, and Father really does kill him. Sometimes he is Father, beating himself to death until blood splashes around his ankles. Sometimes Shoto can feel his dying breath leave his lips with an apology to Izuku for leaving him alone. And then Shoto wakes up panting, and Izuku shushes him, and he falls back asleep. Shoto doesn't find consciousness for more than long enough to hear the echoes of his screams until Saturday's early afternoon. He wakes up when the door to the room he's in opens, and Hitoshi slips in. He smiles. "We've got to thank you," he whispers, and Shoto isn't sure why he's whispering. "This is the most he's slept since he got here." And Shoto turns to look, and Izuku is curled against Shoto's side, in between the crisp sheets and puffy comforter. He understands the whispering now. Izuku looks horrible. Last night, Shoto had barely been lucid enough to knock, and he hadn't seen the deep, bruising circles under Izuku's eyes, or the greasy, unwashed hair, or the line of bruising trailing from his pulse point to his collarbone. He points at the bruise, and Hitoshi shrugs. "We're not sure," he says. "He won't tell us. He's been getting real up in his own head, all kinds of secrets. He's getting money from somewhere, but he won't say where." Shoto thinks about this, lips pressing into a thin line. His fingers brush absently through Izuku's hair, along his cheekbone, under his jaw. Hitoshi squats next to the mattress. "We've all been waiting for you two to wake up. Well, other than the screams, nobody was super excited about those." Hitoshi stops, looks at Shoto, realizes what he said. "Shit, my bad." Shoto shakes his head. It explains why his throat hurts too much to talk. "Toga insisted on cake to celebrate you joining, so Kurogiri and Twice and Toga are making that right now, and Compers and Momo are gonna frost it. Me and Shigaraki and Dabi are keeping an eye on the news." Shoto nods, wincing a little. Mineta had been excused from class and sent home the moment UA staff became aware of the article, and he was expelled by the end of class on Friday. Nobody was especially sad to see him go. He wonders if his disappearance will make any waves in class. Will anyone mourn his leaving? Hitoshi's squat turns into a sit next to the mattress on the floor. He peeks around Shoto's bandaging. Shoto doesn't remember who did the bandaging. Maybe Kurogiri. He remembers soft wisps of black smoke near his face. Now he's covered almost head to toe. He's in new clothes, too. Izuku's shirt and pants. Even if most of the damage had been superficial, just bruising and scrapes, it feels nice to be swaddled. What happened?" Hitoshi asks. "You weren't really, conscious when you got here. And Izuku went catatonic, pretty much, so we couldn't get anything out of him either." "Izuku." Shoto's voice hardly breathes around the name. He coughs and it burns, and his eyes water, which all makes him cough more, and Hitoshi turns around and hands him a water bottle, and Shoto drinks it. His throat still singes with pain, but the coughing stops. He tries again at a whisper. "Izuku okay?" Hitoshi frowns at Shoto. He looks at Izuku and frowns deeper. "You want to head downstairs? You're probably starving after, 20 hours of sleep." Shoto nods, if only because it's clear that Hitoshi won't answer with Izuku here, even if he's asleep. Shoto kisses the crown of Izuku's head and gets his legs under him, feeling fawn feeble, and Hitoshi ends up having to help him get upright. It's mortifying, Shoto's weakness. He shrugs off Hitoshi's hand on his arm and walks to the door on his own. He gets down the stairs, even though something in his chest is screaming at him to stop and sit. He joins the league at the bar, and there's a collective cheer, and Momo gives him a hug that feels wrenching, even though she's trying to be gentle. Without prompting, Kurogiri slides a steaming mug across the bar to him, and Shoto takes a sip. It's bitter, and he can't help but curl his lip. It has herbs that aid healing processes in the body, Kurogiri tells him, and the lemon and honey should soothe your throat. Shoto blinks, nods, sips. He hadn't known Kurogiri to be this thoughtful. Sips again. Everyone is waiting to talk to them, and Shoto knows he doesn't have the volume in his voice to speak over them right now. So he asks quickly, "What's wrong with Izuku?" Nobody had expected that question. Shoto can tell because everyone suddenly looks uncomfortable. Even Toga shuffles back and forth in place, and a tick seizes both of Twice's shoulders before forcing a wordless shout out of his mouth. Nobody can meet Shoto's eyes, or the one eye that isn't swollen shut. Frustration begins piling into anger in Shoto's fingertips, frosting them with lacy ice. Dabi is the one who says, "All right, okay, don't freeze your arm off about it." "He's fine." Shoto raises his unswollen eyebrow. Dabi amends. "Okay, so he's not, great, but he's not dead either. We'll call it a win." Twice, hands covered in cake batter and mask dusted with flour, offers, "He doesn't tell us much, traitor. We don't really know what to tell you." "And his smile," Momo starts to say, and then trails off. She shivers just a little. Shoto wants to strangle her for it. Izuku's smile. Izuku's smile, out of every reaction to have. She shivers at Izuku's smile. "Dude, seriously, fuck off with the ice or I'm coming over there to personally burn your arm," Dabi says. Shoto's ice had started branching out in sharp hooks over the bar's countertop. He lifts it pointedly and shakes it out, and the ice on the bar starts to melt. But Shoto remembers something, and he looks at Momo and Hitoshi and he says, "What's wrong with his smile?" He doesn't bother asking the rest of the league. They won't know any better. Hitoshi shrugs. Momo answers, well, how to say? It doesn't look like a smile," Toga interrupts. "He just stretches his face like this," and she pulls on her face and shows her teeth. Oh yes, Shoto knows that face. "Has he been squinting a lot?" He rasps, takes another sip of tea. "Spending a lot of time in the dark?" "He only ever goes out at night now. Why?" Magne says. Shoto's frustration builds in his fingertips, but it doesn't stoke itself into anger, and the frost doesn't trickle from his skin. "Migraines," he whispers. "Huh?" Shigaraki says from his corner booth. "Migraines," Shoto hisses, and takes another long sip of tea. "Izuku gets stress migraines. He only makes that face when he's trying to push through them." "Oh my gods," Momo says, looking appropriately guilty. "I didn't know." Hitoshi slaps a palm to his forehead. "Fuck, you're right," he says. "He'd get migraines when we trained, too. I never connected that. Shit." "What are migraines?" asks Twice. "You're a whole-ass grown man, Gene," Magne says, sounding almost horrified by the ignorance. Twice shrugs, visibly trying to tamp down a tic. It comes out a few seconds later anyway. "They're headaches," Kurogiri says simply. Shoto makes a face, and it pulls on a few bruises so he stops making it. "They're similar to headaches." "My mother gets them," Momo says. "The pain is accompanied by sensory sensitivity, nausea, and other potential symptoms." Toga makes a face Shoto can't decipher. "Do they make you dizzy and angry?" she asks. Momo tells her those are possibilities. Compass asks Toga why she's asking. Toga shrugs shyly. "I don't know," she says. "I thought everyone had that stuff with their headaches sometimes." Shigaraki looks ready to make a snide comment, but the walls creak as a suffocating wind whistles a low tone, and Izuku is suddenly next to Shoto at the bar. Shoto does not know this, but this is the first time anybody has seen Izuku use his quirk since joining the league. Everyone is staring. Izuku's eyes are melting with tears. "You were gone," he says, as if he's not about to cry. "I didn't want to wake you up," Shoto says, Just about everyone else in the bar visibly has something to say, but Shoto ignores them. Let them carry their own weight for a minute. But Izuku notices, even encumbered as he is with that migraine hammering behind his eyes, Shoto can tell. Izuku still notices everyone else, and he sucks his tears in, and Shoto wants to scream. Let him cry. Please let him cry. Instead, Izuku wavers on his feet, minutely, then brings a hand to Shoto's cheek, staring at the eye that's swollen shut. "I'm gonna kill Endeavor," he whispers. "Woo! Fuck yes!" Dabi cheers, Shoto glares, and Dabi sticks out his middle finger. And Izuku reiterates that he hadn't meant it, that the plan hasn't changed. They're not actually killing Endeavor. And Dabi says, "Dude, no takebacks." "We will not be killing Endeavor," Izuku repeats, dark and almost feral. Dabi stills. Momo and Hitoshi both flinch. The room petrifies. They're scared of him. They're scared of Izuku. Shoto doesn't know how to fix this. Izuku does not want to be feared, and Shoto knows this, but when you see someone struggling alone against whitewater rapids and succeeding, it's hard not to be afraid, either for him or of him. Shoto is scared for Izuku, because he can see his shoes slipping off under him. Everyone else, apparently, is scared of him, seeing only that frothing, violent water he's fighting. Shoto does all he can think to. His fingers go to Izuku's temples, where he knows they will be at their best use, and he rubs gentle little circles there. As Shoto knew he would, Izuku melts into him, letting his expression go slack and his muscles go limp, and leaning all his weight onto Shoto's chest immediately. Shoto, who has more bruises on his left leg than he really wants to admit to, leans back against the bar to support both their weight. The petrification has melted, and now everyone laughs, nervously at first, and Hitoshi says, "He's like a damn cat." Izuku heaves out a sigh and relaxes further. Shoto smiles too. "My bad, guy," Dabi says, and if he says it with a laugh, like he had been joking all along, his pride can handle it. "But Izuku, you should have told us if you were having migraines," Momo says. She's already typing frantically on her phone. Shoto isn't sure what she's looking for, and twice nods. "We could have, fuck you, done something for you." Izuku struggles to get his legs under him, enough to stand up straight and look at everyone. But he's still clenching his eyes shut against the dim bulbs lighting the bar, so he's still leaning against Shoto when he says, "But you're all scared of me." For about half a second, Shoto thinks that Izuku is right, and that they are scared of his love, who needs help getting things from high shelves, who cries when his mom texts that she loves him. The silence of the room for that half of a second convinces Shoto, and he is ready to raze them to ashes. But then Toga says, "I'm not scared." And Shigaraki says, "Scared of you?" And soon everyone is agreeing that they were never scared of Izuku. "You were being scary," Hitoshi says, "but I wasn't scared of you." It's an important distinction to make, and Shoto's shoulders relax, and he acknowledges that his love is not alone here, that Shoto did not leave him alone here. It was just a migraine. It was just a migraine. By Monday morning, Shoto is more settled in. Momo has even made him a new costume. It's sleek and it's got pockets, and it's made of carbon fiber and Kevlar. Hitoshi donated some pajama pants, because he's taller than Izuku and they fit better. But Toga donated a pajama shirt, because neither Hitoshi nor Izuku brought enough extra to have any to let Shoto borrow. So, Shoto stumbles down to breakfast wearing laser-eyed cat pajama pants and a moth-bitten pink sweater. All his pajamas at home are silk and dry-cleaned weekly, but this is way more comfortable. Shoto may be an early riser, but Kurogiri is up even before him, already scratching breakfast out of some eggs and meat and flour or something. Shoto sits down at the bar and watches. He had woken Izuku up, briefly before letting his head fall back to the pillow, to let him know he'd be downstairs. The whole league, recent defectors included, were being much kinder to Izuku now that they knew he was just in pain, not having a full-blown psychotic break. The only person with a stick still up their ass is Dabi, who has literally run from the room to avoid being alone with Shoto 4 times in the past 2 days. Toga has fully adopted Shoto, and she's insisted on sharing her stuff with Shoto every opportunity that she's had since he got here. Sweaters, snacks, her personal bacitracin cream. Do people usually have personal tubes of bacitracin? Magna and Compass and Twice are all doing their best to accommodate another littler person, but they're settling for lots of hands on shoulders and flat, awkward smiles. Shigaraki and Kurogiri act as if Shoto had been here all along, quipping angrily at him for standing in one spot too long or including his portion and breakfast every morning, respectively. Izuku has hardly been awake. He made valiant attempts all of yesterday, but Toga and Hitoshi and Momo and Magne and Twice all came in at various points in the day to shove Izuku and Shoto back into their mattress on the floor with various implorations to just rest for fuck's sake, to quote Hitoshi. Shoto has never been told to just rest before. He wasn't entirely sure how to complete their assignment, but he did his best, and he held Izuku close to help his heart relax, and the two of them somehow managed to sleep the day away. Kurogiri deposits some pancakes, a fried egg, and 2 slices of bacon onto a plate and slides it to Shoto. He says, "Your eye is healing nicely. Still no fluid in your lungs." Kurogiri has been checking on Shoto periodically. He was worried that one of Shoto's bruised ribs might have fractured, or broken or punctured his lung, but Shoto wasn't comfortable letting Kurogiri, or anyone else for that matter, touch his ribs, and Kurogiri didn't coax any further than the occasional check-in. "No fluid," Shoto replies. "Thank you." The next downstairs is Compress, followed shortly by Momo. They yawn around their mouthfuls of breakfast, and slowly, the rest of the league sinks down the stairs with the air of drenched leaves in a fountain. When Izuku comes down, he sits next to Shoto and presses a kiss to his temple. "I can see your pretty eye again," he murmurs. "How's your ankle?" "Pretty much good, thanks to Toga's bacitracin." "Told you," she mumbled from a booth seat at the bar. "Call me Himiko. Get it? He-me-ko." "Then, thank you, Himiko." And Himiko giggles and returns to almost face-planting into her syrup. "Izuku." "Please don't use that voice." Izuku groans half-heartedly. "It's too early for this." Momo asks, "Too early for what?" Izuku answers, "That's Shoto's serious voice." "No, I call bullshit," Shigaraki says, still chewing. "There's no way you can tell the way he said that just now from any other time he said your name." Magne and Twice laugh at him, and Izuku ignores him to ask Shoto, "What is it, my dearest?" Dabi moans, "It's too early for your fucking PDA." And he is also ignored. Shoto says, "Your plan is going well." "Hell fucking yeah it is," Hitoshi says. "The internet is ripping UA to shreds for allowing Minato to keep attending despite all the shit he was pulling. Momo is suddenly garnering a lot more sympathy." A slight ripple carries through the bar, as everyone, other than Momo herself, who had been told this is what would happen, realizes that Izuku knew this would happen. It stills Hitoshi in his excited tracks. Shoto nods. "But what about after?" "After?" Shigaraki echoes. He hadn't been who Shoto was speaking to, and he knows that. It sounds wistful on such a barbed tongue. Shoto looks Izuku in the eye, where he knows Izuku can't lie to him. "After all of this, after the point has been made, I know you can't tell us the plan, but what happens to us after we're done here?" Izuku taps the counter of the bar with 2 scarred fingers, thinking. "I have planned that far ahead," he responds slowly. "Nobody here will be going to prison." "What does that mean?" Momo asks softly. Magne says, "How can you keep a gal like me out of prison?" Jean seconds that. Dabi doesn't even say anything, just watches the bar like a cornered rat. "I have a plan, and you will all be taken care of," Izuku says. Compress, the oldest person present, feels his brow wrinkle and thinks to himself that a child should never have to say that to a room of full-grown adults. He thinks about how Izuku hasn't even gotten to his full height yet. He thinks about Izuku's mother, and what a fearsome thing she must be to have raised this child, whoever she is, and how she might still have a doorframe where she is keeping track of how many centimeters he grows every year. He's only 15. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 16 of Watch Your Heroes Fall. Chapter 17 is up next. Hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.